forward on here. So this discussion is picking up from last Sunday when we actually viewed the Black Godfather, the docu kind of like documentary about Clarence Avant, with our awesome member Nandi Pointer as associate producer. I know you didn't want to really get into it too much when we first kind of did the introduction to the movie last week, but I know there was some stuff that you were holding back, and I just want you to go ahead and talk about it now, since you know we've seen it and there are no spoilers involved. So
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I think from my perspective, I just in working on it, I as kind of like a journalist and a documentarian, I wanted to know more about, like, I felt like it was a little bit too celebrity driven and trying to pack like everybody that he touched. I know they were trying to get that vibe, but I just would have wanted a little bit more kind of about how he was able to make these moves. I felt like it didn't really say deeply enough how he was like getting those connections and what actually he was doing. And I felt like, and being in on some of the interviews and things like that, that was kind of like intentionally shied away from. So
yeah,
that was pretty much it. But I, since I was in on it, I don't know if I have a different lens on it, or you know what I mean. I
I
would have
can
liked to see some
see that.
more of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I did think it did get to be, because it was like you can only take so many bits and pieces from all these different people that he had connected with or
Right.
helped. So it was a bit overwhelming at times when you had to keep switching to different people with their own little tidbits. So I
Yeah, and,
understand.
and at a point, it's like, are you really, is this person really necessary to the story, or is this just another like name that's known, and we're going to put them in here, and they're going to say a funny tidbit, and we're going to put them in, and they're going to make a joke, and they're going to keep, and so it's like I just didn't want it to be like a press piece, even though I think he's done a lot of amazing things. I just felt like it could have been a little bit more, weighted in terms of making it like great. I feel like it was good,
Mhm.
really good. And I feel like it's a really important story in terms of what he accomplished, especially during that time, was amazing. And so I just kind of felt like at some point when he has that turning moment, because I don't even know if they included it in the documentary. Did they say that he saw someone get shot, like his relatives, either husband or wife get shot right before he moved to New York? Or did they just say he was having problems or something, or his mom got married or something, and he
Yeah,
didn't like his
he
stepfather?
didn't. Yeah, I think it was kind of like he spoke about the abuse from the stepfather
Yeah.
and how he had put rat poison in his food, and his brother warned the
Right.
stepfather he had to leave.
Right.
But they didn't, I don't remember them ever saying anything about somebody getting shot though.
Yeah, in my research, I can't remember it right this like clearly right now, but he witnessed a shooting of either like his, somehow it was like a wife of a relative, you know what I mean? And he witnessed it firsthand, and it kind of shocked him. And I'm not sure if there was some legal stuff around that or what, because that was kind of not clear. And that's when he heads off to New York.
Mm,
That was the catalyst for him leaving the South. I'm leaving North, was he in North Carolina?
yeah.
Um, so I think that, I don't know, so there's that. And then the next epiphany moment is kind of when he sees the murder. He sees the casket newspaper picture, right?
Emmett
Mm.
Till.
Of Emmett Till. And then he's like,
Mhm.
I mean, that's basically like a nervous breakdown, almost like that he had at work. If you're crying and cursing and doing that at your job. And then I think at that moment, he kind of goes on a new path and kind of more of a, almost, there's some of that gangster kind of hood mentality in his way of going about whatever he did.
Right.
But that was something. And even he even at one point was trying to collaborate to get into some oil dealings with Africa and Nigeria. And I think there's like something of him going over to meet some like really high up person over there, and forgetting to address them the right way because he was so just like whatever and like offending him maybe.
Mhm.
And but they were trying to set up a kind of like an African connection with oil and business, and that got completely shut down. And one of the guys connected to it got beat up, and there was like a whole thing with that.
Right.
But I mean, I guess you can only include so much, but I felt like it was more entertainer star heavy to a point, just a little bit too much, a little bit too much of that. But yeah.
Yeah. I was just excited that, we could view this as um and listen to how, the process was for you actually working on the film, because I didn't know, until we had this discussion before and you told me about it. I had never heard of him.
Right.
But that was one of the things that I liked about it, how he was able to connect all of these people and stay in the background. You know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, just stay in the background and make these connections and help these people, and really not even asking for anything in return. Because you think about in the documentary when he went broke, it's like, man, you helped all of these people out and you were literally um down to your last.
Right.
And that was just, that was amazing to me.
Right.
Like that
Right.
that really
Right.
was amazing to me.
I know it was amazing to me too, because even, in the, they even say that he had a hand in telling Jim Brown that he should go into acting
Hmm.
and facilitating that transition. It was just funny because I just watched that night in Miami.
Oh
And
yeah. Yeah.
so it's just funny to see that he was connected to that and just he I don't I and I just I guess just out of my own curiosity, I was just like, how did he make all these connections?
Hmm.
And just really quick, I opened up my file so I see the details. It was he when he was working at the supper club, and he saw his father's cousin murder a man at point blank range. I guess the man had raped the cousin's daughter. And then
Mm,
it says he abruptly leaves North Carolina, his mother and his 7 siblings, and moves to Summit, New Jersey to live with his cousin. And that's when eventually he gets that job at the company in New York where he has the breakdown. He starts over Emmett Till.
right.
But
Okay.
yeah, yeah. But I thought that was amazing too, from the music to the, you know, record label, two different record labels, a radio station,
Right.
just so many different things that he was accomplishing.
Hmm. That's true.
And didn't seem to really, it sounds like he was like a fixer, but I don't know, like, you kind of wonder, like, where's his money coming from?
Yeah, I got that too, because when Diddy was talking about, oh, he kept me out of jail, he kept me out
Right,
of trouble, and then Jamie Foxx made that comment like, these weren't like stuff that you could, these were incidents you couldn't just sweep under the rug, but he had that much pull that these
right,
people didn't go to jail and it was never any publicity behind it. So
right.
I was
And
like,
that,
dang, that was interesting to me.
right. I was just amazed at how is he moving in the shadows like this. And so what is he, connected to? You know what I mean?
Right,
I guess that's just like, but like again, the journalist in me was just like wanting to find that out. Like, wait a minute, someone who's, you know, hasn't, how's he making these connections? You know what I
right,
mean? Like, he's not from some political family. He's not highly educated in traditional sense. He's got street smarts, and he gets in as a promoter. But to go from a promoter to what he did with it is really just, you know, amazing. And to be unknown, because I had never heard of him before I started working on the project. I had never heard of him.
yeah, that I I was just amazed to be honest
Yeah.
with you. I was really intrigued because I really wanted to figure out why they didn't really focus on how all of that came about, you know.
Right.
Because if, once he's gone, there's nobody really to talk about it. So I really would have wanted that to be somewhat of the focus. Like, how did you even get to be able to do this? Like, I feel like it was somebody in the background, like, because his start was with the white guy,
Yeah,
um
Joe Glazer.
right, that he got hired with. And then there was some mention of some like mafia mob like ties that kind of
Right.
got glossed over. So I'm like,
Right.
that's kind of interesting.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I think. And that's the part that I think that we weren't allowed to touch, because again, the daughter was behind getting the documentary made. And, like I said, on Netflix, because her husband's, pretty high up there. And I was just curious as to like these transitions, and how is he doing these things and how does he get into these circles, especially once it got to the really high up political circles with the Clintons and
Right,
all of
right.
that. Then I was like, wow, this is really, you know, it's getting up into those inner circles, and I just don't understand how he did it.
Yeah,
I don't understand. Like, because whenever you're doing a project, even if you think of yourself trying to want to achieve something, you want to start a record label, anything that I've wanted to do that was going to be like a big next step, usually you need some capital, you need some money.
exactly.
And if you're doing something big like a record label, you need probably a lot to start, even if you're
Exactly.
going to start small. How are you going to record the record? Who's going to do the promotion? Where are you going to have your office? How, all that kind of stuff. So I was just kind of wanting to know, how did he do all this? And there was stuff that they didn't even put in there that he was doing, like he would be able to raise money for, like, he raised $1 million for this Operation Push thing that Jesse Jackson did in 1972. And he was just always in these little circles, able to get people to do things. And I'm just trying to figure out why and how.
Right.
Why and how, yeah.
Monique, I know you popped in last week, and did you have anything you wanted to, any feedback?
Well, I popped in a little late,
Mm.
so I got to the end because, like, even the stuff you ladies are talking about, I'm gonna say that was from the beginning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and I'm not even gonna lie to you, I'm remembering stuff as people talk, so I might pop in a little bit after everybody shares their point.
That's cool. That's cool. Katie, did you have anything you wanted to add about the movie?
I mean, the biggest thing to me is it just surprised me that he managed to stay in the background. But all these famous people have all of these stories about him, and they never talked about it until somebody asked them. And I'm just curious as to why, if he had such an influence, why they never said anything. Was it just, I mean, it could have just been out of respect, because he wanted to stay behind the scenes because he felt like that's where he could do the most work. Like, if people weren't watching him, then people wouldn't get in his way or try to stop him,
Yeah.
Because I think that is, especially during the time when he was doing so much work and he was coming up against blatant racism and trying to work within the system, and make things happen. I'm just in awe of a man who was able to do what he did in the time period that he did it and managed to not get dragged through the mud and not have people attack him or even, assassinate him, because people that were doing similar work at the time, they got killed. and he was a man who was able to do all of this and survive. I mean, what an incredible human. That's
Right.
all I got to say. I mean, an incredible human.
Jessica?
Well, I was thinking to the fact that he was able to get by with what he was able to get by with. I think a lot because he had powerful allies in the white world, and because he was so incognito about what he was doing, he kind of could go through those doors other people may have gotten killed for, because he wasn't making a big fuss about it, not putting himself out in the front, in the spotlight for people to know what he's actually been doing. He's just making moves behind the scenes. So I think that kind of helped him. That anonymity kind of helped him a lot. So, and I think it was just kind of unspoken, I guess. I mean, people will mention him. His name will be on the, in the small print, like on that Bad tour, I think it was, poster. But he was just, again, somebody that him, but you, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. So I think that kind of helped him a lot, and I think he was just, amazing, and I definitely am appreciative that this was made. So thank you, Nandi, as well, for working on this project, because glancing through it, I was looking at like the people who were able to share some of those stories, like Cicely Tyson, Bill Withers, Hank Aaron, people that we've lost.
Yeah.
And we've never would have heard never heard anything about Clarence Avon from them, had this not gone through. And I'm just, looking at it, he really was an amazing guy. Like, I don't like the fact that he said life is about numbers, but like with those stories and interviews, every single one of them, to me, documentary could have been longer, but I know they didn't want to make it longer. It kind of showed that he really wasn't a numbers man. He really was about people and love, but he just didn't like to show it.
Yeah.
He definitely didn't show it, because everybody was Eminem and this and Eminem.
Right. And I don't know, he's a lot older now. So I don't know if some of that too is him softening, with age. And I don't know what his character, because he does his background is about being able to negotiate and get people more money. Get artists more money, get people a better contract, convince, things like that. And so, I just, I don't know what his tactic was, I guess. His style.
He had to have been a tough dude.
Right, because they're not telling us how he got these things accomplished. It's just kind of like, you go to Clarence when you have a problem. Okay, cool. So he's a fixer. But like, why are these big company people, you know what I mean? Are these big wigs, willing to do this? Why is he being appointed by the Carter administration as a delegate to the Dominican Republic? Like, why?
Right.
What connection does he have to it? What, you know what I mean? Like, what's really going on? Like, I'm like, what?
When I tell you, I hit the floor literally. I know y'all probably heard me laughing a couple times, because when they called him about helping with the civil rights stuff, and he was like, laughing just thinking about it. But the stuff that he would say to people just had me literally rolling. Like, I guess, if you're going to work with somebody like that, you want them to be truthful and honest with you and, give it to you raw. But man, the things that he would say.
Right. Well, yeah, I think he did have a way about him and a way of communicating that helped get stuff done. You know what I mean? Like, probably just very straight up, like, no niceties in the whole, let's make it pretty. Just like, motherfucker, da, 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 like, just what's up, more of like a hood street kind of vibe. And so I don't know if he had something behind him too, you know what I mean? Where they didn't want to make him upset. I don't know if that was, that's the element of my curiosity that I'm like, my little digging attitude of wanting to Find out some more.
And see, that's I think they wouldn't tell you that because one, they don't want another person trying to pull off what he did, and two, that's just they want you to know it's just the magic of Clarence is who he was. He won't
Yeah.
give you details like if you want to make it on your own, but he did what he did. Ooh,
Right.
food.
Yeah. DeAndre, you want me to go ahead and make you
Yeah,
post so you can share?
yeah. Yes, definitely give me the screen sharing. So Nandi,
Yes.
outstanding job. If this receives an Academy Award, make sure you get your percentage because you will do that.
Okay.
Now, where am I? So this was so incredible. It's one of the best documentaries I ever saw. And let me say that Clarence Avon is my type of gentleman. So
Oh, nice.
this was so incredible. I had to put my top 10 takeaways. So takeaway number one,
Oh, awesome.
he knew his purpose and he was driven by it.
Mm-hmm.
And we can all take some away from that. That if it's not enough to be motivated by money, fame, glitz, or glamour. It has to be something much greater than that. Because when the hard times come, and they will come, what's going to push you beyond that? So that goes back to your purpose,
Right.
which entails what your why is. So hold on, wait a minute. So takeaway number two, he lived by numbers while also using that philosophy to serve others via the golden rule, which is do good unto others and good will come unto you. We saw the doors he opened, and we saw how he was able to help people get the opportunities that they may not have gotten otherwise had he not stepped in and informed them on the possibilities of what they were doing.
Right.
Takeaway number three, Clarence Avant was fearless. For him to say what he said after seeing what happened to Emmett Till, and for that guy to tell him, I understand how you feel, but make sure you don't do that again. And the way he talked to people, the way he even held Bill Clinton accountable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So also he was a master salesman. Why do I say that? Because he was able to sell vision, he was able to sell ideas, and he was able to sell possibilities. I say this because of how he went to Coca-Cola and convinced them to give Hank Aaron a much greater give him promotion so that it can further add income to what he was doing. Because I believe at the time he was underpaid, but it opened up doors for not only him but future black athletes to get more for the work they were doing for professional sports, which I still think personally that a lot of these brands, although athletes are making a lot of money off of them, but how much money are the brands making off the athletes? LeBron James got a lifetime sneaker deal of 300 million, and that's great, but how much money is Nike going to make off of him?
Mm.
Number five, and you mentioned this, Clarence was a master negotiator. When he sat in that room when Michael Jackson, when the ET situation went down, he sat in that room and with all these white men going back and forth across the table with lawyers and everybody being involved, he was able to sit there and work it out. That takes critically fearless mastering negotiation. If you've ever worked in sales, if you ever worked in marketing, you know how much you have to study. You know the hours and the commitment you have to put in learning scripts,
Right.
practicing, rehearsing, and being able to rehearse that when people have rejections or they have objections. Now, which brings me to my next point, number six. He was a master mediator. How many people were he able to talk to? Like the guy who talked to him about how he wanted to leave his wife, and even though he gave it to him raw and uncut, he was able to mediate that situation. He was able to get Puffy out of jail. I wonder what he said to Puffy as he was getting him out of jail. And he was able to be a mediator in so many different situations.
Uh-huh.
Takeaway number seven. He fully and authentically exemplified the advice and the message that he gave to so many people, which is why he is considered a mentor, father figure of the like. He walked his talk. He was who he said he was.
Yep.
Takeaway number eight. He bridged 2 to 4 generational gaps in both entertainment and politics through networking, relationship building, while also leveraging that relationship capital to help other people accomplish their dreams, goals, and objectives. When he contacted Andrew Young about him running for mayor and was able to get Isaac Hayes and so many other people to support his campaign.
Mm.
That's what I got out of that. But
Mm-hmm.
also, and you all have mentioned how he was able to do all this while staying in the background. It's because he was able to he has the ability to connect dots, to connect people with people and create something greater. I think one of the God-given gifts he's been given is not just leadership, but the ability to network. So he knew what his
Yeah.
gift was and his talents was, and he maximized those areas. And here's the thing: anybody can succeed at an incredibly high level if they know what their natural born abilities are, and if they're willing to master those natural abilities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Takeaway number 9: he recognized the power in being a private, behind the scenes power broker. He was able to create so much while remaining in the background. And a lot of times in our community, the mistake we make is that we don't know how to do things without recording and showing our oppressors or people that want to keep us down what we're doing. If you reveal your game plan to your opponents, how are you going to defeat them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's something that we can all take away. There's a lot of stuff that I do that I don't let people know anything about.
Right.
The less people who know, the better. And last but not least, takeaway number 10: a lot of opportunities would not have been possible for Black entertainers, athletes, politicians, and other Black business people if it were not for iconic Black entrepreneurs. Whether we're talking Clarence Avant, whether we're talking John Johnson of Ebony and Jet magazine, whether we're talking Earl Graves of Black Enterprise, whether we're talking Ed Lewis and Clarence Smith of Essence magazine, or even Kathy Hughes, who was being interviewed of Radio One and TV One, or anybody else, even people in the music industry. A lot of gaps that were bridged would not have been able to be bridged. So those are my top 10 takeaways from this documentary. This one is an incredible body of work, and make sure you get whatever royalty check that's you're eligible for as a result of this masterpiece being put together.
And to
Okay.
add to the number 10 takeaway, it wasn't just Black people. It's some white people who never would have got their start without people like Clarence Avant, without the support of the Black community too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I noticed that with that other white record company that he encouraged to sign all black acts. Remember that in the movie?
Which one?
I don't remember that.
You don't remember
Mm.
the record company?
His
Sussex
record
was
company?
his, right?
Huh?
Sussex was his company.
No, there was another record company in the documentary that was full of white dudes that he encouraged to sign black acts.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember that. I just can't think of the name of the company.
Right, I
But
can't
I do
remember.
remember that happening.
Yeah, he had
But
his hands in so many things.
yeah, he kind of reminds me of, because I mean, I guess probably why I don't kind of remember a lot of this stuff, because he kind of reminds me of the older generation. Everybody from that generation moved that way. It wasn't about like now you have to have a, someone up front. Everybody has to be seen. Back then it was about, they were raised from a generation of survival and strategy. Like you looked for strategy because you needed to learn how to thrive, in life. And they did a lot of things behind the scenes. Like it kind of reminds me, that's all I was raised around. Like my grandmothers, them and stuff. They were kind of like those people. People came to them for stuff. I remember them like bailing people out. Even in Griffin, I know white businesses that are thriving now, or we know them as the major heavy hitters in Griffin, but there were Black people who threw their money, that gave it to them. They only have a legacy because somebody Black gave them money, that gave them connections to people. They were able to call up people to get things done. I really think it's the generation he came from and the generation who raised him that was just normal. But you don't really see that now because once the baby boomers came, that opened up a whole nother lineage of people who need to make it known that they're helping people. They need to make it known who they're connecting to. They need to make it known that it was them who did the moves. If it wasn't for them, you wouldn't have it. And his generation was like, it's not all about team of me. It's about team of, everybody. I think that's the big difference with his life and the documentary versus what we see now as like millennials and Generation X's and stuff like that.
Right. Anyone else have anything to add?
Now, just like his daughter said, if he left here today, he definitely would have fulfilled his mission in life. He definitely would have fulfilled his purpose, I believe. And I think another thing we can all take away from that is this: whatever we're doing, who are we doing it for? Who are we serving? Are we for ourselves, or are we for the greater good?
That is the biggest thing. I think a lot of our generation, they don't do that. It's all about what I did. Let me show you what I did. Let me show you what I accomplished. Let me flaunt all of this off. And
I
then
don't know.
everybody's like, yay, it's totally different.
I don't know about you all, but I'm thinking about when I'm gone, what are going to be the 5 definitive points in my life? What are people going to say at my funeral? How will I be remembered? You know how I say, and I don't mean, I mean this with all due respect, what I'm about to say. You know how there are a lot of people who are born, they live, and they don't do much. They don't operate in their purpose. They're not serving anyone. They're not doing any. They're living. Hold on, they're existing, but they're not living. And so a lot of times, when people live and they go through life and they miss that mark, that's what sin is, and it comes from the Greek word sin, which means to miss the mark. When a lot of time when those people die, are they a lot of times they're not remembered when they're dead and gone.
Right.
It's like let me give a deeper example. When Rosa Parks left, and this has nothing to do with money, this has nothing to do with anything. When Rosa Parks left, everybody knew. When Cicely Tyson, God rest her soul, when she left, everybody knew. When Nelson Mandela left, everybody knew, because of what they devoted their lives to, what they spent their lives fighting for. A lot of people, it's unfortunate they don't tap deeper into their purpose and deeper into who they are. And when they leave here, never discovering that part of themselves, they're not remembered once they're dead and gone. So that's another thing I got out of it.
Well, something that I got out of this documentary is, it kind of goes into that vein, is what's my long game? You talked about serving others and figuring out what our purpose is and how we can help our communities and how we can make things better. And I think a lot of times when I know that I get caught up in my daily life, like that daily survival, like, where am I going to get the money to pay my house payment? I need to call such and such to see if I can clean a house this week. But there is a point where you have to look outside of your survival and what your day-to-day life is. And I think that you're right, that if we only focus on ourselves, and we don't look at what the long game is for what we can do and what we can accomplish for other people, then we probably aren't going to be remembered. We're probably not going to make much of a change. And what I saw in this documentary for this man was that he had a long game. He knew where he came from, and he knew where he was, and he knew where he was going. That's it.
Also, though, in that aspect, he grew up in a time where you had to find a purpose to survive. And it seems like nowadays, since we're more Blacks, we have more comforts. We don't really have to go through, face the jarring world sometimes the way that they did. Um, we get lost in the day-to-day life, and we have to find, we feel like we have time to find a purpose. But when you look at people like Clarence Avon or Cicely Tyson, you think, gosh, I've already wasted so much of my life. And they've been doing this from birth, but they grew up in a different time and era, though, where because of them, we can live the way we are now.
Yeah, that's why I say you have to really study the different generations, because, baby boomers were like the first generation to be like, I want to move. I want to do something different. I don't like this, hard, silent life. The silent generation was moving, but they were the first ones to birth what we're experiencing now. And then came Generation X, and Generation X added on to that. Like, now you have freedom a little bit. Now Generation X is going to give you everything that we thought we missed. And the baby boomers as well. Like, they made the privileged kids. And now it's more so of entertainment being known. And, that's beyond music. It can be comedy or social media influencing is more known versus actual purpose work that you're doing. Yeah.
And I agree with a lot of what everyone's saying, but I also there's something that's nagging on me in terms of the, you're talking about purpose, and I agree with that, like living your life, living your purpose, being aware of who you are and kind of tapping into what you're here for, to accomplish or to learn. But I don't think that has to be connected to, celebrity and how many people know your name. When you think about somebody like Rosa Parks, I'm sure there's thousands of other people who were doing things that we never heard about. They didn't become famous. I've read things that say, she wasn't the first person to not give up her seat. She's just one that became famous. And some of that did have to do with her appearance and her job and how she would be kind of received as someone who had committed this act of defiance against racism. But I think that if you're living an aware life and you're just trying to have your sphere, however far out it goes, be about your purpose and doing good and figuring out what you're here to enjoy and to become and learn, then that's enough. You know what I mean? I don't think it has to be that everybody on Instagram is posting your picture when you pass to mean that your life had purpose.
Right.
Absolutely. But if you think about it, though, that was the first Instagram. She was picked because that particular generation decided that she represented better than the others. That was the generation that was already picking who they thought should be the representation of what was going on. If you really think about it.
About Rosa Parks?
Like you were saying, that I don't think you should have to be famous for your purpose to be known. I totally agree with you. It's people that are doing the work and in their little circle, in their hometown or whatever, they're being talked about. But that particular generation, the baby boomers, were the first influencers. They were the first people to state, we're just not going to put anybody. This is what we feel like is the representation of the person that should be shown to the world to be known for. It truly started with the baby boomers. This little, you have to be famous. This who needs to be seen.
Social media validation.
Yeah. They were the
I can think that's in some ways that can be fleeting and hollow and fake, if we attribute too much of people being of value or having a purpose by the fact that they're known on Instagram, they've gotten a stamp, of whatever the account is, verified. They got verified on Instagram.
I know, right?
Well, I mean, it's not even just about that, though, because, I mean, you really think about how selfish you've been living your life when you look at it compared to these people in the spotlight are showing you how they've touched and helped and connected with others. And even when you just start looking around your life, you're like, have I touched somebody that way? Have I connected with somebody that way? And it worries you because you're like, who have I touched? What have I done? Because your life could be taken from you in a second. and you don't even know. And it's just like my, like, because my friend was murdered 2 weeks ago, a few weeks ago, and he was 2 weeks shy of his 31st birthday. And it's like, what, my dear gosh, did he even finish what he was supposed to do? His daughter doesn't understand what's going on while her dad's dead. It's crazy. And you start thinking, oh my gosh, what have I done with my life? We don't really have as much time as we thought we did. How do I touch people in ways that, even if, I don't need my name to live on, but I want to touch people in ways that it fulfills a purpose in their life, and that they do whatever God's purpose is for them. So it makes you really start thinking like, gosh, what have I really done?
And to be honest with you, you don't have to be faint. And just like Nandi was saying, I only brought that point up because no one, I know I had never heard of this man prior to this documentary, but the reason why I said that if he died, that he would have accomplished his purpose, and that looking at the definitive points in my life or anyone else's life, is that you don't have, this has nothing to do, and I mentioned this already, this has nothing to do with fame or money or anything like that. You don't have to be famous to impact people, for 10, 12 years after you're dead and gone, for people still to speak about you as if you just left, or as if you're still here. It's just a matter of definitely tapping into their purpose and knowing who you are, knowing what you're here for, and also getting out of the noise. Because if you're in that day-to-day grind, that's the last thing you're thinking about.
Yeah, that's true.
But hello, Sandra, how are you? We see you just came in.
Sandra is the Nandi lookalike with glasses.
Don't do it today.
But I love it. I love that game.
You still, Sandra, you there? I see your iPad signed in. Maybe she's busy and she can't talk.
I'm shunking it, audio.
Yep.
But I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna ask if anybody.
Oh, I was gonna say I thought that was crazy how when they were talking about the benefits they put together or something. It was Clarence Avant, Diana Ross. It was somebody. It was I think Quincy Jones. It was somebody white that I'm forgetting. And it was weird. People from different worlds pulled together for an event for Clarence Avant, like that he put together. And I'm just like, oh, that's kind of crazy. Like it really is crazy influence you have. Like he was an original influencer. Like for people to still come together for you when you ask, and when he even got all three of those record labels together for that event. I can't remember. I think it was the campaign for Andrew Young, maybe. No, that wasn't it. I'm not sure, but he had Atlantic, Motown, and another record company, come together with their stars to pull together for an event. I was just like, not even the fact that they're famous or anything, but just the fact that people will come together for you when you ask. He's living an incredible life. He's still living it, and his children, I know they felt the weight of his shadow, especially the son, but
Yeah.
That had a great legacy. And of course, he'll live on through you, but not just through you, through other people. And that's what I like about Cicely Tyson. One, I didn't even know she had kids because it's not reported on Google. It was only when her memoir came out that I realized she had a daughter. And I was like, okay, so she did leave a legacy with her, even though, so her daughter will remember her, but she left behind children with her everywhere. And I think that that's amazing too. When you can just kind of have people who remember you from all different walks of life, even after you've passed, or even before you passed. So I thought that was cool. He was.
You done, Jessica? I don't mean to cut
I'm sorry.
you off.
I muted myself. You good?
Oh, it's interesting that we got to this point talking about purpose and legacy and everything, I have a question, and you all can chime in if you want. What do you personally define leaving a legacy?
Oh man. I think that for me, just because I feel that part of my purpose is to be an educator and a teacher to small children, that my purpose, what I want to see when I get older, is I want to have text messages from students telling me, hey, Miss Dozier, I made it. I did the thing that I wanted to do. You remember when I was in 5th grade and I told you that I wanted to be an engineer, or I wanted to be a lawyer, or I wanted to be an entrepreneur, or I wanted to produce movies? Like, I did it. So I think that for me, I just want to provide people with a sense of knowing that they can and that they will. And then if they need help finding resources, that I can help them find resources, that I'll help them research, and that, the kids that I come into contact with can, get in touch with me when they're in the 12th grade and they're like, I need a reference for college, or I need to figure out how to find a scholarship, and then just be there for them and help them figure that out. Like, if at the end of my life, I have several kids that were like, man, you know what? This lady helped me realize my dream and helped me become what I wanted to be. I think that for me, that would be fulfilling my purpose.
I think legacy for me means no matter, even when your name's passed on, like even, for people to remember you as a person who cared for everyone, did what you could for everyone, but most importantly, you showed the God in your life. If so that way, even when your name passes on, like, washes away through the generations, the God that you showed still resonates in other people and passes on. So I feel like the legacy is when you leave people with the tools they need and the resources they need to get through their lives as well, which is, for me personally, faith.
Absolutely.
I don't know. For me, I don't really look at legacy as something for when I'm dead. Like, I believe in a living legacy. Um, as far as making sure that whatever I'm doing on the day to day actually helps or benefits someone um, in any way, shape, or form. Um, as educators, we have that where it's something that we don't think about because we come into contact with so many students or scholars on a regular basis, and your goal is, as Katie was saying, is to help them get to the next level and accomplish whatever their goals are, or any dreams that they have that they want to accomplish. But I don't look at it for like the long term, as in, oh, I want people to be able to say all of this about me when I'm gone. I just want you to be the person that I can call to help me whenever I'm trying to help somebody else. You know what I'm saying? So I don't look at it as something to talk about when someone passes away, but more of a living type testament.
I think that really goes back to the documentary. I think that you have a really, really good handle on that living legacy, because if you're making relationships with people and you're helping them and then they become what it is that they wanted to be, you're right, you have that connection and somebody to call on when you're trying to help people make connections so that they can succeed. I really, really like that.
Right. I was trying to agree, but I had chicken in my mouth. Sorry.
Just because always the comedic relief
You
Andrew?
all gave some incredibly you all gave some incredibly insightful answers. And to be honest with you all, I'm still piecing together the puzzles of what I want my legacy to be. But legacy to me is definitely having so much of an impact and an influence in people's lives that what you do, that your actions, your words, and what you do inspire them to be the better version of them better of their better selves, if not the best version of their best selves. And that, and I know you Shonda said something that it's not about when you're dead and gone, but you have to understand that we're not gonna always be here. At some point, our time will be up. The question is, when as you as and this is going back to how I'm looking at it, when you have left, what type of imprint will your life have been? Will the imprint of your life still live, just like so many other people? Will your impact have been that great? And I'm not saying it has to be on a global or a massive scale, but are you that committed to your purpose to where when you have left, that your imprint on the lives of those you touch will live with them until they get older? And will stories about your life be told and passed down to future generation?
But that's what I was going back to and talking about, you know, the idea of helping people, that being embedded, because I'm, you know, a lot of us are not the type of people that stories are going to be told, going on for forever and ever, but we've made that impact on their lives in some type of way. You know what I'm saying? So,
Definitely.
I'm not one of those people that really cares for, monuments to be put up or things to be dedicated or, whatever. Just I'm the person that's trying to do what I can while I can. You understand what I'm saying? So yeah.
Yeah, I understand. But I just want to say thank you all for your answers, because you all helped me get clarity. That's why oftentimes I don't ask for me. I ask to see what other people's perspectives are and see what I can take away from what other people say. Because I learned a lot I learned a lot from you all, whether you all realize this or not.
It's funny that you talk about legacy, because I think when I was younger, I think just also because I was always interested in media, and I did used to think of legacy in terms of like doing something to where you are known, like you leave a mark, you leave something behind that can be either, for me, it would be tangible, like a book, right? Or a reference or a film or a documentary that people, might gain some understanding of or just know about you. Because I think there's that part of your ego that when you think about not being here, at least for some people, and I would say me, you're kind of like, I don't just want to be gone. Just like nobody, in a minute, nobody cares or knows or remembers you. But as I've gotten older, I kind of worry about that less. And I think that by worrying about that less, it frees you up to kind of, in a way, almost like do and be more, because it's going to be coming from like a really pure place, of not like worrying about the outcome of something. It's like the artists who are so freaking talented, but nobody knows about them until 100 years later, and somebody finds a sketch and goes, oh my God, this guy was brilliant. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes we don't know what our, the rock that we've thrown into the pond, what the ripple is going to do whenever, but if you're putting out that energy of wanting to know your purpose, of wanting to create, of wanting to just kind of figure out who you are even, I think that leaves an imprint, whether it's 5 people, 10 or a million. And I think even from traveling overseas, that's one of the things that excites me that I don't think about sometimes. It's like how many people and
Yeah.
students I've met in
I was
different
just gonna say that.
countries,
Yes, Nandi. Yes, I'm with you.
that I'm just Nandi and I go on to my next class of 30 students, 30 Korean students, you know what I mean? And I'm just trying to get the names right. Hey, John, hey, Dame, Young, but I'm not thinking about that I'm probably the first Black teacher they've had in Korea at a university, or probably may ever have again in their studies. you know? And so I'm not thinking about that like in the moment, like, oh, this is my legacy. You know what I mean? I'm just working and I'm thinking, oh, this is a cool experience. But I think sometimes we don't see the impact that we're having. It's just like how you can meet someone and think that you might even think, oh, they didn't like me, or oh, they were kind of cold, and they might really have liked you, but be shy or something. You know what I mean? And go away and be like, oh my God, I met this great person. So I think sometimes we don't know, or we're not meant to know what we're leaving behind or what we're really doing in the world. You know what I mean? Because we have this idea of what a legacy is. And I do think it is connected a lot of times to, oh my God, 25 million people know who I am and what I did, you know?
Right.
And that's great too. I'm not saying I don't love Michael Jackson to death, but I'm saying know that he was a genius. But you know, I think there's just different forms of leaving that. So I just try to embrace like just you keep trying to get better, Nandi. You just keep trying to like because sometimes it's hard to know exactly your purpose. You know, I think it's easier for some people than others. At all the times, I think it can change as you change, you know. So I don't know if that rambled, but that was my thought.
No, I agree totally. You know, it was so funny that you said it because I was about to comment on that. Um, and I think all the time about how if something happened where I was going today or tomorrow, like my life has been extremely rich in that I've been able to, you know, travel the world, um, experience so many different cultures, so many different religions, and meet so many different people and form these friendships that it still tickles me all the time when I get messages from, you know, friends in China or, you know, Thailand or the Republic of Georgia, you know, Mexico, Costa Rica. They're like checking in on me. Like it's somebody else in another part of the world that knows me and remembers me. You know, for me that's rich, and that's probably is as good as it really gets, that when you're talking about especially our students, the impact we had on them, you know, being maybe the only Black person that they ever interacted with and was able to inspire them like that,
Yeah.
that's a lot. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, when you talk about perceptions or discrimination or thoughts that we have about groups, it's those subtle things, you know. It's even if I had a certain impression of, you know, whatever group, if Jewish people or, you know, people from Cambodia, you know, I think they're this way. It's like if you have a teacher or you meet someone and you have a personal situation with someone, you have a personal reference for what this Black person that you knew was like. And it just changes everything after that. Friendships you might have, somebody marrying somebody in your family, you know, who you might hire for something from someone in a job, you know, it has a ripple effect.
Honestly, I think teachers as a whole, you know, especially ones who travel, but teachers as a whole underestimate the power that they have over people because as a student who's never been a teacher, I have teachers I remember from kindergarten, middle school, elementary school, high school. You know, there are certain people that will never leave my mind because they made such an impact on me, on my life, on my education. And, you know, it's just a job for some people, but it really does, you know, y'all really do impact people.
Yeah, same. I have certain teachers from certain years that were just, you know, just you will never, like you say, you'll never forget them. You remember stuff they did in class. You're just like, oh my God, that class was so fun and that teacher was so great, you know, because they were just happy to be doing what they were doing. And when you're working with kids, I mean, it is a noble profession in that way. Like you're shaping and you're giving back and you're kind of investing in the future when you're a teacher. You're going, okay, I have something I can share with you to help you go, like you were saying, Catherine was saying, you know, everyone, and you're trying to live your dream. You know, when I had a student come that I brought to visit the States, one that I was teaching debate, and then later she did graduate study in the States and ended up moving to the States. Not that that's the goal, but you just feel like, wow, you know, that exposure probably impacted her. And
Right.
even the ones that stayed in Korea, they have that reference of, you know, that experience. And I think that life is so much about those going after those special moments that are going to stay with you. And to me, that's like my legacy now, like Ashonda was saying. When I look back and say, if something happened to me tomorrow, I don't have regret because I'm like, I really good, bad, and ugly. You know, the times when my life was not in a good place. You know, I took it there and I lived like every part of it. You know what I mean? It wasn't just some cakewalk of me skipping all the time. You know what I mean? And I think that's fun. I like that. I like having the idea of I've had a rich life. I've taken risks. I've gone places. I've made good decisions. I've made bad decisions. I've learned from them, you know.
Definitely. And even on the smaller scale, like I was saying earlier about, you know, well, I don't know if you have kids or not, but you know,
I have a daughter.
oh, okay. Yeah, so like even, just how incredible your life is, it really, like, it may seem, before it might seem normal to you, but to your daughter it's like, oh my gosh, my mom was so like global. She was loved by everyone. Oh my gosh, this person came up to me and said they know my mom. Oh, this person cared. Like, so again, you're I don't know how to say it. Even though people say, ooh, sorry, somebody scared me. Even though people say, that you don't have to be larger than life, of course, to leave a legacy, which is true. Just, your legacy as a teacher, or, you know, being an author or something, people who are close to you will remember that, and they'll keep
Yeah.
your legacy on like that. Sorry, it scared me. Give me one second.
I think there's a great balance between that idea of living your legacy now, and then also just like not we're living your best life now, and kind of like that's your legacy, is like how well you lived your life. You know what I mean? Because if we don't know what the card is for our life, the map, we don't really know. It's that big mystery. If you don't know, you know what I mean? You can try to plan, but you really don't know. And so if you're just trying to live it the best you can and get the best experience out of it and learn the most you can, if you believe in reincarnation or that kind of stuff, or next life, people talk about old souls, so it's kind of like, because it's a toss up in a way of, you don't know, like you talked about your friend passing away, and then you don't know what after that, and you don't know why that happened to them. It's like the message always comes back to me, well, okay, well then you just have to try to live your best life, you know?
Yeah, completely. I don't know though if I would have been as bold as Clarence even today to walk up into Coca-Cola president's office, even though you had a meeting with him, and just say stuff like that. Like, I can't. I know I'm not a bold person personally, so
Right. So that's probably not your path. That's
yeah,
his path. You know what I mean? That's his lane. Your lane is something different.
right,
You know what I mean? Everybody has their own lane and their own gift and their own beauty, you know?
most definitely.
Anything else?